the stories of entrepreneurs and how they overcame the struggles and challenges to get where they are today. This is Believe in the Entrepreneur with Joel Sandoval, CPA.
What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Believe in the Entrepreneur, and I'm super excited because I have Watsonville's very own Jose Luis Marquez, who's a realtor, not only in Watsonville, but all of Santa Cruz County, Monterey County, and I actually grew up knowing Jose Luis. You know, he was kind of someone that I looked up to when I was just a young kid, and it's an honor to have him here on the show. So welcome to the show, Jose Luis.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm very excited. This is going to be my first podcast, so hopefully, we get our ideas and out there so that people can, relate.
Yeah, I'm excited. So a little bit about Jose Luis. So he's a realtor that has over 16 years of experience, not only in residential but also commercial and in ag properties as well. So Watsonville, where I'm actually originally from, so it's very heavy agriculture, strawberries, apples. So he represents, clients in various, different parts of real estate. But before that, he was actually a banker, believe it or not, for over 5 years. And he actually lived in Bakersfield and decided to move back to Watsonville. So Jose Luis, why don't we start by telling me a little bit about your story? Tell me a little bit about, why were you a banker, and then what made you get into real estate, and then why go back to Watsonville?
So that's really good question, and I always get the same question asked.
Mm-hmm.
Why, if you were working at Wells Fargo, why you decided to go into real estate. One of the reasons when working in real estate at the bank, I realized that a lot of the clients were coming in. This is back before the market took a dump, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the clients were coming in to get, checks. They were in the process of buying a property. And what I noticed that, I can actually feel the clients having a lot of doubts, a lot of questions. A lot of the people came into the bank. They were excited to buy a house, but then at the same time, they will always ask me questions about, real estate related. And that kind of made me, started thinking of, why don't I go into real estate? It looks like, it seems, and it feels like all the these people, they're not really getting the information that they need. I mean, they're buying. Used to tell people you're buying a $500,000 home, and I mean you don't really know. I mean what you're signing.
Right.
Pretty much that's what a lot of people always told me. They're like, hey, I'm buying a house, but I kind of feel like I'm I don't know what to do. I mean, some of the stuff I don't understand, and that kind of made me think about it a little bit. And that was kind of like, the reason why I decided to go from the banking industry to real estate.
Interesting. And so you saw a need, right? Because you basically felt like there was, a gap between, people not knowing, what they're getting themselves into, right? And you kind of felt like, maybe like a calling, like, hey, I can provide a service that is currently missing in the marketplace, which is, basically an education gap between and it's interesting because when most people, especially like in our hometown, Watsonville, right? Most people is Hispanic. And when it comes to paperwork, it's like gibberish. Like they have absolutely no idea. Like all they know is what is my monthly payment, right?
Right.
And that's pretty much it. And they don't know how much they're paying in loan fees. Hopefully they know what interest rate they're paying.
Right.
But it's very, very, they just don't really know. And so it's great that you saw that as an opportunity. So obviously when you're a banker, you kind of have a fixed income, but then you went to basically 1099. So, were you just like, hey, I don't, were you scared at all? Or you just like, the need was big enough?
Not only that, but it was, working at the bank and usually at the bank, it's a 9 to 5 job. You close shop and you go home and then you kind of forget about it. Mm-hmm. At first, yeah. I mean, a lot of the people that I was working with, they told me, hey, this is not the right time. You're crazy. It's a tough time. Why would you go from a paycheck to 1099? Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't do it. A lot of people did tell me, don't do it. Even my manager told me, don't do it at the beginning working at Wells Fargo, but then later he was like, hey, whatever you want to do, I'll support you. And also the need, these people coming in and not really knowing what they were doing. And like you mentioned, especially in our community, they sometimes, they just want to know what their monthly payment is, and that's it. And then there's more to it than just that.
Right.
So that need made me jump into the business. And like everything, like anything else, right? If it's something new, you don't really know what you're getting into at first. And at the time, I didn't have a family, so it's a little bit different. You kind of take a little more risk when, it's different. Having kids, maybe it keeps you from taking, projects.
Right.
And so I just kind of did it. I saw the need, and I went to take my test, and I passed the first time, and I was like, this is it. And I didn't really look back. It was a little bit of people ask me all the time, what is there something that you really like about real estate? What I really like about real estate is that you don't have a schedule. But then I don't like the fact that you don't have a schedule.
Right.
Because you can be working, long hours, or you can take time to take your kids to school, or maybe take a break, or maybe do other things. But yeah, at the beginning it was a little, certain. I didn't know what it was gonna be like. If I was gonna be able to get a paycheck. I mean, that's the big concern. Luckily, I was able to close a deal in the first 3 months, and I know that usually in real estate, people can take up to a year to close a deal, and that's what sometimes keeps a lot of people from doing it.
Right.
From getting into real estate.
Right. So this was back in, was it 07 when you did?
2006.
2006. Okay.
When
So
I started.
Okay. So 2006, I think the market was like still hot. And then it wasn't maybe a couple years later when it crashed.
Right.
So did you like cash in on that hot market and just, close deals left and right?
At the beginning when I started, the way I was able to build my clientele was a lot of the people were actually doing short sales at the time. And, maybe we can have another podcast that covers all of, short sales.
Right.
But a lot of people didn't know what to do with their properties. And it was at a time when the market was kind of cooling off. It wasn't as crazy.
Okay.
And so a lot of people started coming to me, and they started talking about maybe, getting out of their properties. They didn't know what to do. One of the advantages, and this really helped me build my clientele. I was able to help a lot of these people that that were in need, that needed help, and that's how I was able to build my clientele. I helped them. Even the realtors that will call me and they will say, what, I don't want to deal with paperwork. I don't want to deal with the short sale. Here's my, they just give me their clients, and I think that really helped a lot, because helping them during, when people were going to a bad time,
right,
they really came back to me and they purchased a property again. Years later.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I was able to build my clientele, because I didn't really sell too many homes at the beginning, because again, everything was kind of cooling off. I remember, asking people, hey, are you interested? Do you want to buy a house? Because that's the first thing you do, right? You talk to your family, your friends, you let them know what you're doing.
Right.
And a lot of the people, they told me no. They're like, no, properties aren't going to be worth, 100,000, 50,000. So I'm not interested. And, I just kept pushing and I kept doing short sales, and, I was lucky to be able to provide, good customer service. They liked how I worked, and I learned a lot, because nobody else they didn't want to do it. Right. Nobody wanted to take on the work and the time, and I did. And that's part of, my success now,
Nice. So you basically found a niche.
I did.
And it was like short sales. And for those that don't know what short sales are, it basically means you're underwater, where the value of the home is less than what you owe on your house.
Correct.
So you owe more money, and your house isn't worth as much as what you paid for it. So you found a niche, and it's understandable that you probably didn't have much competition, because the amount of paperwork that goes involved into a short sale, it's like, it almost seems, intimidating. But for you, with being, having banking experience, you're like, hey, paperwork, I'm all for it.
Yes.
And then obviously you're good customer service. You started getting referrals, and then you kind of grew your business that way. So now take me through, because at the time, I was working for my mom, at the escrow company, and I was, 18, 19 years old. I had I had some work experience, but it was like at Long's Drugs, CVS, literally just like, I was not, taking work seriously. And this was the first time I actually had to take it, seriously. And I would see you and I would see, other realtors that worked in the office. And I kind of looked up to you guys like, wow, man, maybe one day I can be like them. And I remember getting my real estate license around that time, but then the housing crashed a couple years later. And so I had to make the decision to actually decide what I wanted to do, decided to become a CPA, moved to Bakersfield from Watsonville, and I became an accountant. But, you stuck through it. You've been in the real estate industry now for over 16 years. Right. So take me through that time, because for me as a young kid, not knowing what I know now, I should have bought a bunch of properties during that time, and I would have become a millionaire at the age of 19 years old. But, I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the experience. So take me through that time. Go back into that time. Were you affected by it all? Or did you actually take that as an opportunity because of your short sales?
I did. I actually took that as an opportunity, and you said it right. I mean, I found a niche where, nobody really, and let's, if we go back a few years prior, that's when, people bought their homes, right? So they came to me as a way of, help me. I need help. What do I do? A lot of these clients were not really my clients. I mean, they just came from other people and people referring them to me. So I think that's, to me, like you mentioned, coming from the bank, I wasn't really afraid of the paperwork. I mean, I remember when I started doing short sales, I called the bank and I called one of the big banks, right? And I'm all, hey, I'm in the process of doing a short sale. What do I need to do? And I remember calling, 3 or 4 people because nobody knew what a short sale was.
Wow.
So I think that I came in at the right time. Obviously for some people it was not a good time. Right. For me, it was because I was able to take on all these families and all these people that were, underwater, and they trusted me. I mean, like I said, that's how I was able to build my clientele, because I helped them in a time of need. And they remember that, and they came back to me. And to me, it wasn't really hard at all. I mean, I remember one year doing over 30 short sales, so that was big for somebody that was starting in the business. Wow. And somebody that was especially with the short sales and how the market was at the time, and obviously people didn't really want to do anything. They didn't want to purchase a property. They didn't trust people. I want to say that. And so the time was just right. And it's one of those things that, you don't really know until you actually try it. So me, looking back, it's, for me, it worked out. For me, it was the perfect time, because obviously I've been doing it for 16 years. So a lot of those people are, they're still coming back, they're still referring people. And I think that's huge, right, for me, for my business.
Yeah, 100%. Referrals, I think, are super important. And if you provide a good client experience, it's just a compound effect of, people referring. It's like, before you don't even need marketing, because there's so many referrals coming in where it's like marketing is just cream on the crop, or cream on the top. But what I think is interesting, Jose, is that, like, for me, the first time I had to prepare a tax return, I was intimidated, because I was like, oh my goodness, look at all these forms. And I'm a very, my mom, she's very, and that she's an escrow officer. So paperwork for me, it was like a passion as well. Right. But it was still intimidating, because I was like, I don't know what a 1040 is. What's a Schedule C, Schedule A, Schedule B? This was all foreign stuff for me. So I could imagine, being in your position, moving from banking to real estate, and now having to learn short sales. Did you do short sales as a lender, and was it easy, or did you have a mentor that showed you, okay, this is how you do the paperwork?
No, some of the forms I was familiar with, because working at the bank, and doing equity lines and doing loans, some of the forms were similar, but I kind of just took it upon myself and just, I learned on my own.
Really?
I will call the bank and like I was mentioning earlier, we'll call the bank and ask for, forms to do a short sale, and they didn't even know what a short sale was.
Wow.
I remember calling one of the big banks and, I want to do a short sale. What do I need? And they're like, oops, let me transfer you to somebody. So I finally, one day I got transferred like 5 times, and I waited probably over an hour.
Wow.
Just to get to the right person. So finally, when I got to the right person and they tell me, oh yeah, you're with the right person. Here's what you need. What I did was I actually, all the forms that I was using, I kept them. Like I did a lot, I put a separate file for short sales. And what I discovered is that every bank was using different forms. So I was like, oh shoot. So what I did is I did one file for every bank. And I think that's what helped me a lot. Like if somebody will come in and say, hey, I have my loans with X bank, right?
Right.
I would already have a file ready and I knew what they were asking for.
Nice.
So for me, it was already easier. I would just pull up the forms, tell them what they need, because I got a list from the bank. And people were, they're just, and also, a lot of the clients responded really well. Like they were ready, like they knew that they needed to do something and they needed help. So a lot of them were, some of them didn't really know what to do. Some of them didn't really know, the paperwork. But again, I was there. Some people I will spend a couple hours with, just getting everything ready, and that's how I was able to, help them.
Nice. So you created basically a database of like, okay, here's all my files for every bank. Now next time I get a client with that same bank, I can just pull out my files and boom, right away. You created efficiencies in your systems and your operations, because now it's not like, okay, what do I do again? Right. But now I would imagine, it's funny that you even called the bank and the bank didn't even know what a short sale was. Like you're the one educating the one that actually needs to do the restructuring, which is hilarious. But what I think is interesting, like I'm not sure, I honestly don't remember if 2006, I would imagine that YouTube is barely starting, there's probably not even any information. If there is YouTube, there's probably nothing on there regarding short sales. Right. Like now it's like, you could probably YouTube and you figure out how to do all the short sales by just YouTubing or using Google, right? So technology has advanced a lot since then. So you basically figured it out on your own.
I did.
And it's like, I mean, to me, a lot of people, and I can see why you didn't have much competition. Like, it seems like it almost would be overwhelming. And it's almost like, to me, like, especially when you're trying to close a lot of deals quickly, it almost seems like a waste of time. Because you're like, I got to close the next deal, especially, with everything that's happening in the market. But you, as a client service first, you're like, I'm going to take the time. I'm going to spend an hour waiting just to talk to the right person. Then you still spend another hour to educate the client on how you can help them. You didn't really rush like some people. Like I could imagine myself being there like, okay, I'm not going to learn this. It's too slow. So how do you are you just naturally patient, or how did you like say, I want to learn this?
There's always my wife's always telling me that I'm, patient for some things, but then for others, I don't have the same patience. But I think that it was something that I wanted to learn, because again, the need, right? I mean, I started to get all these calls, hey, people are underwater. They need help. And so, I just kind of, I did it, I was very patient. Like I said, my first call, it was just getting to the right people, waiting over an hour just to get an answer. And finally, when I got it, I was like, hey, I don't need to be, and I got the right numbers too, right? Because you will call the 1-800 number and they had no idea. They will transfer you back and forth. And finally, what the bank started doing was they dedicated a special, section for the short sales. Right. So you will call the litigation, a special department for that. Right. So I became very familiar. I got my system in place. I was very patient because, again, I guess the need, right? Right. Going back to the clients, the need. And I just wanted to provide, good customer service, which is always what I'm, I've always been, about customer service. I mean, we even working at the bank, I mean, there was, my clients will wait for me an hour and a half.
Wow.
And I will tell them, you know what, you don't need to wait for me. It's okay. Somebody else can take care of you. They'll take care of you just the same way, as me. And they will be like, no, I'll wait for Jose. I'll wait for Jose. I mean, I used to have, a line of people waiting, and,
wow.
and it just happened that way.
Right.
I mean, I will take my time. And obviously when you're at the bank, it's a fast paced, job. You can't really take your time, but
right.
people were willing to wait. And so that kind of, makes you feel good, and
right.
you want to help, everybody, but sometimes, you can't do it. So I think that, being patient and delivering a good customer service, to me, it has been key.
Yeah, I think that's important. Now I have a question regarding that, because like that's kind of the same thing that's happened actually in my career as a CPA. Like in the beginning, I started as a solo tax practitioner. So I did everything. I was, I answered the phones. I was the janitor. I did the tax returns, right? But as I started growing, I had to start to use my, hire team members. So I started I hired my first secretary. Then I hired, my first tax assistant, a tax intern. Now I have, departments, right? Kind of like you had departments for your banks. I have, my tax department. I have my accounting department. I have my marketing department, my sales department. And so now, but I still have clients that signed up with me 6 years ago when I started my firm, and they're like, I need to meet with Joel. And they don't want, I'm like, it's like, you're going to have to wait a month to see me. Why don't you just talk to my team? They're going to do exactly the same service because I've taught them everything that I know. And they're like, no, I want to talk to you, Joel. I'll wait a month. And again, it comes to that customer service experience. But I personally get a little bit frustrated because I'm like, you don't have to wait for me.
Right.
So how do you respond to clients that are like, that they're like, no, I want Jose. I want Jose. Like, do you actually soak it in, or do you get frustrated like I do?
Now with the real estate business?
Yeah, the real estate business, or just your career in general.
Well, now it's a little bit different. So now with the real estate, you kind of, there's times or days when, you just got really busy and you didn't get, the phone call, you didn't call the client back. And, but there's still, and I get frustrated in the way, not in a bad way, in the way that I want to help everybody. Right. And I want to be able to provide a good customer service, because that's what I'm about.
Right.
Just good customer service. And sometimes, the day only has 24 hours, and, there's not enough time. And I get frustrated. And sometimes what I do is I just try to, the next morning, try to pick up the slack. And because I don't really have a secretary. I mean, right now I'm pretty much doing everything.
Right.
With the difference that now we have transaction coordinators who take care of our paperwork, and that kind of takes a lot of the work off our backs, so that you can concentrate on calling the client back, taking care of them. But it's still the same. I mean, people do wait, and people, hey, I won't be able to show you properties today, but we can do it Saturday. And it's like, yeah, no problem. Let's wait until Saturday. So
right.
It is a good feeling, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Right.
A good feeling where people want to wait for you. But the frustration is not being able, or at least for me, is not being able to help that client. Because obviously,
right.
if you don't help that client, eventually they're gonna go somewhere else.
Right.
And that's what we are trying to avoid.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then it's like sometimes you're like, oh, I forgot to call the client, right? Because there's just so much work, and it's like, even as organized as we can be, sometimes it's just overwhelming. Like even for us this tax season, we would sign clients up, and then it's like normally our processing time is about a week to a week and a half to finish a return, but now it was taking us about 3 weeks. And it was not because, and the frustration was like the fact that we were not providing that same client experience that clients are used to. Right. And so like you want to provide a good customer experience, but now it's kind of like not providing that service because you're just too busy. But the next day you said, you wake up and you make that a priority. And even until this day, you kind of do that. So how do you, like you said, if they wait too long, it's possible that they could go to the competition.
Right.
So is it just the customer service experience that says they're willing to wait that much, or how do you prevent them going somewhere else?
I think the key too that I've learned, throughout the years is, people really, if they like you, they're gonna buy from you, or they're gonna use your services. And I think that aside from the good customer service, I think that there is probably something that they like about you. There's
Right.
just, and I always tell people, hey, and I'm sure it happens to you, and I'm sure it happens to a lot of people in the business and different businesses. There's people that you click with, clients, and there's people that come and talk to you, and sometimes, you want to do as much as you can and treat them nice and give them good customer service, and it just doesn't work out.
Right.
I'm sure it has happened to a lot of us.
Yep.
And in different businesses. I mean, I've had it where, I help people, I show them properties, I really devote time, for them. And then, they ended up with somebody else, and it has happened to me, and I'm sure to a lot of us.
Right.
And the majority of the time is not really the service. So it's not really me, because one of the things, and in kind of going back to answering your question, I always like to be upfront. If somebody else, if my clients go with somebody else, I call them and I tell them, give me the reason, and that's all I ask. I don't want you to, I don't want you to feel like you got to go back to me so I can help you because of what happened. But just, tell me, is there something that you didn't like about me? I mean, is it something that I said, or something that I did something that you didn't like? And the majority of the time is, hey, I got referred to a family friend, or, I got a call from so-and-so, somebody that I knew from high school, or maybe, somebody in the family. And that kind of gives you a peace of mind, and it makes you, you feel better, because
Right.
it's not really you. It might have been other circumstances that, made this client, go with somebody else. But I really like to call my clients and ask them the question, because I want to make sure that, I get better,
Right.
as I go. It may be something that I did, maybe it's something that I say that they didn't like. I want to change that.
Right. And I think that you hit a key point where people do business with people that they like. Right. They do business with people that they trust. And so they're not going to go somewhere else, because you already built that bond, right? You already built that. It's almost like there's glue, and it's like you're not going to break that relationship unless there's something that happened, right? Which you don't know, right? Until you call them or contact them. And it's like that in any relationship, even marriage, right? If you have a strong relationship, you could go on vacation and have trust that your wife, your spouse, husband is going to be loyal to you, because you have that strong relationship.
Right.
And I think when it's the same thing with clients, if you have that strong relationship, you don't have to worry about them going to the competition, because you have such a strong connection, and they're like, this is my CPA, or this is my realtor,
Right.
no matter what. I'm not going anywhere else, because I don't trust anybody else but you. And I think that's super important, and that's probably like the biggest fulfillment that you can get when someone trusts you that much, where they're trusting you with their money, trusting you with their life savings, their decisions, because they're relying on you. Hey, what do you recommend?
Right.
And you have to guide them, and they trust you enough to guide them in the right direction.
And just to add to that, I really like to take my time. Going back to we talk about the times and how long we spend with clients. I really like to take the time, because I think it's important. Once they make the decision, I mean, this is they're making one of the biggest decisions in their lives, right? So I like to take my time and explain as much as I can, and then let them decide. And once they say it's a go, let's just do it. We get it done. And that way I don't feel like, they're going to come back later and say, hey, well, I didn't know this, or you didn't. I like to make sure that they learn and they know the process.
Right.
And
that makes sense. Yeah. Because if you don't take the time, right, to explain to them, or take the time to establish that relationship, they're going to feel that.
Right.
It's like, hey, I just feel rushed. He just wants to make money, as opposed to he cares about my decision.
And I always tell the clients, right? I mean, yes, we don't, and it might sound like a broken record, right? We make my, we don't work for free,
right?
We're in the business. Yeah, we get paid. I mean, I get paid just like anybody else, doing their job. Yes, we do get paid, but that's not the main point here.
Right.
I want to make sure that you understand, because again, 16 years in the business and getting all these referrals from past clients, there's that's, the money will come later. We don't work for free. I tell my clients, hey, I don't work for free. I do get paid. I have a family to take care of, and I don't work for free, but that's not, let's just make sure that you understand, the process, and let's make sure that you feel comfortable. And then let's worry about, our paycheck later. I mean, there's times and deals that, we really don't make money.
Right.
We help people. I had a client, she was looking for a house for 2 years. So if you factor in, what my paycheck was, divided into, over 700 days that not, it wasn't every day that I was with her, but a period of 2 years.
Right.
I mean, if you factor that in, I mean, it's the numbers, they're not going to make any sense because,
right.
It's very little money,
right,
for 2 years of work.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's almost like an inverse relationship between money and relationships. For example, if there's an argument between a husband and a wife, one of the main reasons for divorce is finances, right? So it's almost like, okay, is this argument about finances worth breaking this relationship? Right? Because I'm arguing about my wife, don't spend this much money, or you're spending too much money, or I can't believe you're doing this. And it turns into an argument. But what's more important, the relationship or the money? And there's an inverse relationship. It's like, I care more about the relationship than I do the money. Like in your case, it took 2 years for them to buy a house. Right. You probably lost money on that deal. The amount of showings you had to do, the number of phone calls you had to do, the number. It's like, and then the commission, sometimes you're expecting a certain commission percentage and ends up being less than that. I was like, oh my goodness, I completely lost money on this. Yes. I spent 2 years. And so I've had to learn that the hard way because I've lost certain relationships because of money. And looking back, it's like, okay, well, what was more important? And sometimes the money is more important, because it's like you don't value the relationship that much, and you kind of would like to go your own separate ways. But sometimes the relationship is more important. And it seems like for you, you always have relationship first. Right. So how do you, because for an entrepreneur, our goal is to make money. Right. So how do you say, you said the money comes second, which I 100% agree with. But as an entrepreneur, there's like, I got to make money. So how do you stay focused on relationship first? So what I do is I just take care of my clients. Like I was just telling you, right? Like, for example, this client that it took me 2 years to help her, right? Every time I call her and every time, we see each other, I mean, she's happy because she bought at a different market, right? She got a good deal on her property, but she was patient and I was patient and I waited 2 years. Well, now you see I probably have, helped, at least 4 or 5 people in her family. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I didn't make money on the first deal, which was with her, maybe because I spent all this time. But now, later, I've helped many, family members. Right. So now I see that's how I made the money. Right. Later. Right. You got the return on investment, not from that first relationship, correct, but from all the other relationships that came after the fact. Right. And it's interesting because it's the same thing with marketing. Like I spent a whole bunch of money on ads on Facebook and social media. And for me, I think about it the same way. Like I'm willing to break even or even lose money to get a client because I know if I provide a good customer experience, they're going to refer me 5 customers. And now I made money from that first client that I actually lost money on. And so just like it is with relationships, it's almost the same thing with ad spend. Like I'm willing to lose money and to build one relationship through that advertisement, because if I provide a great client experience, like you said, it's going to turn into 4 or 5 more relationships, and then it ends up being a profitable. I think actually there was a story about Proactive, the acne medicine. Yes. In school, I remember, I don't know if it was in school, maybe YouTube. Probably YouTube, because I didn't really learn much in school. So, and Proactive, it says they're willing to lose. I think they give away like their 30-day free trial, and they give for you for free, just cover the shipping. And so they lose like $60 to $70 for every client that they acquire.
Right.
And why are they willing to lose that much money? Because they know that long term, they're going to get that person on a monthly subscription. They're going to end up liking it, and then they're going to refer their friends, and now they're using it, and it's like we ended up making money. So it's almost like the person who is willing to focus on the relationship first is the one who wins, as opposed to the one who's like trying to make that dollar. Because somebody else might not be willing to spend that ad spend because, oh, I lost money, and then they turn off their ads, where I kept them going because now I'm seeing the kind of the long-term effects. And you kind of play the long-term game versus a short-term game. But it almost seems like it's natural for you.
And also one of the things too that I really, when I left the bank, I had a feeling that it was going to be for the long term. I didn't really, and even my manager said, hey, when you're ready to come back, you have your job here. I mean, you want to work here, or you want, because I worked, Watsonville, Santa Cruz, everywhere. I was everywhere. And he said, when you're ready, if things don't work out, just come back. And obviously you have a little bit of a feeling that, if it doesn't work out, then what, and then now what?
Right.
But I was always, thinking positive, and I didn't really, look back after I left. I started little by little, and with my sales, here and there. Cause again, going back to the first year, you don't really, most people, it takes them a year to close a deal. The people in the office really helped me, and I was able to close my first deal, 3 months into my new career, real estate. And
nice.
And I just kind of stay, and I said, you know what, I mean, it is not going to be easy, but I better push, and, here I am 16 years later. So
nice. So walk me through, okay, the crash hits now, are you still doing short sales 16 years later? You stayed in short sales, or how did you pivot?
I haven't done a short sale in, many years. I did short sales probably altogether, I'm going to say 4 years.
Okay.
Maybe from 2006 to maybe 2000, there was a very few that were coming into the office. And so what I did is, after that, I started, obviously, what I would do too is I will tell, everybody, hey, I'm in real estate. Here's my car. If you have any questions, call me. And with real estate, it's like when you're self-employed. Every morning you wake up and you're unemployed. So you gotta keep going. So the way I did it was, tell everybody, tell my clients. I will go to the store and start talking to people, right? And one of the things that happened was, all the people that I helped with short sales, there was a time that they because they did a short sale, right? They didn't pay the bank the money that they owed. So it obviously goes on your credit, and you got to wait. Things have started to change, right? Before it was like, you got to wait 5-6 years. Now the banks were willing to give you a loan after 2 to 3 years. So the same people that I helped do a short sale started to come back to buy a house, right? So that kind of kept the momentum, and this was repeat clients that kept coming back to me. So and obviously there was a little bit of a time where it was tough, because there wasn't not too many deals going on, so you kind of struggled to get them. And then we started seeing a lot of bank-owned properties that started coming into the market, and a lot of investors. So that's how a lot of the agents were able to survive through the crisis, right? After the short sales, then the bank-owned properties, then the market, kind of stabilized a little bit, or it got better.
Right.
And most of these people came back and started buying, again with me. And some people started listing their homes. So I wasn't really doing too much marketing and advertising. It was very, very minimal.
Wow.
It was nothing.
Wow.
Really.
Yeah. So, you basically built a portfolio of relationships, like just so many relationships where, like, regardless of the market, it's like you're going to have business, because you just pivot maybe to now, okay, now there's more bank-owned properties. Right. Now the market stabilized. Now it's a seller's market, a buyer's market, but because of my relationships, I don't have to worry about the highs and the lows.
And what happened was once you started seeing all these bank-owned properties, then you get these clients, hey, I have some money that I don't know what to do. I'm not getting a big return at the bank. So if you see a deal, call me, and then maybe we can buy a property here and there. And that's what happened. I started getting calls from clients that had some money in the bank and they didn't know what to do with it. So they call me and they're like, hey, if you see a good deal, call me. I want to invest in real estate. So that's what I did with all the bank-owned properties, better pricing, obviously. I mean, the prices, came down. I was able to sell, I have a couple of investors, they purchased, 5-6 properties, back 10 years ago. And again, now we're going through another cycle where, they know that the prices have gone up, a lot. So now they're ready to sell those same clients. So that's the kind of clientele, the relationships that you built in real estate. Obviously, going back to if you do it right, if you provide a good customer service, you get a client for life.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, think about the lifetime value of the client for Jose. Oh my goodness. Sometimes in the beginning, my lifetime value was like 1 year. Clients wouldn't come back, and it's like, I kind of connected the dots as to why. So, I mean, for you, it almost seems like you always have that in mind, and it's been the reason that you've been able to prosper regardless of the market, right, which is awesome. So take me to, now the pandemic, obviously prices rose, but that's when maybe clients started listing their properties. But did the pandemic change your business at all?
I'm going to tell you when the pandemic started, the first year, it was actually one of my best years in real estate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what happened, a lot of people stay home, they were working out of their home. So what started happening is a lot of people were looking for a property to not so much commute anymore. They wanted a property, maybe a bigger house where they can have an office and still 3 bedrooms and then a little office so that they can stay home and work. And that's what I started to see, right? A lot of people calling and, I want to buy a house because I don't want to commute anymore. My job, I can work from home. And so I want to be able to enjoy my house more now than ever because we're going through the pandemic. And the first year actually was one of my best years in real estate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as I could just imagine the compound effect of all these relationships that you keep building and building. It's just like your database of relationships is just at this point of your career, it's like you're just going to continue to get busier. And so what I think is interesting though is like you have a TC, but it's still just you.
It's still me.
How do you handle the capacity of, since your Rolodex of clients has just increased over the years, how do you handle the amount of volume?
So the way I do it, and again, you always want to keep a relationship. So I've heard from a lot of people, I bought my house and then the real estate agent kind of disappear, right? I mean, MIA, right?
Right.
I mean, I had a question and he didn't answer and I'm not saying everybody is like that, right? I mean, not all realtors are like that. Some people might want to keep a longer relationship. Some people, I don't know, maybe they do something different. Maybe they're doing, they go from residential to commercial. So whatever the case might be, I mean, my clients will call me and, I was there, for them. So that's how I kind of keep it going. And some of my clients, became my friends. I mean, they call me and they're like, hey, I'm going to have a birthday party this weekend. I think it's important that you attend because they actually, put a face to the name. And then the first thing they're going to say is, hey, Jose is the one that helped me buy my house. And I think that that's another way of, getting more business. I mean, I know sometimes I'll tell my wife, hey, so-and-so invited us to a party. And she's like, oh, is it, I mean, don't you feel uncomfortable? I mean, just because it's a client. And I'm like, well, I mean, not really. I mean, because I'm more of a social person. Right. So to me, I mean, if I'm eating some tacos and listening to banda, I mean, to me, that's music to my ears.
Sounds like fun.
Sounds like fun. And then at the same time, I kind of, I talk to people, I build that relationship. And I mean, I'm sure that's how I've been able to get clients too. I mean,
Right.
I go to family gatherings and I'm able to, pick a client here and there. Right. And
Right.
we do it, we all do it different. Right. And that's
Right.
what has worked for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So just networking and always, taking that extra step, somebody might not be willing to go to that birthday party, but you're willing to, go out there and just build more relationships.
And obviously, you're going to go there to, make a presence. And I'm not really a drinker. So, I don't go to the parties to get drunk. I mean,
Right.
'cause that wouldn't be a good image for people that want to buy a house. Right.
Right.
I go and I have fun and I, talk to people and I make a presence. And I think that that's huge for a lot of especially with the Latino Hispanic community. I mean, 90% of my clients, more than 90% are, Spanish speakers, Latino. And so to them, they always take it as an insult if you don't show up. Right? If they take the time to even send you an invitation and you don't show up, it's like, what's going on? I mean, what's the problem? I mean, it's just a party, right? And they take it to the heart. So I think that I've been able to get in there that way, right? Oh, I got invited to a party. Well, let's just go. Maybe a couple hours. Maybe go for an hour and socialize. And I'm out of here. And they'll remember that,
right?
That's one of the things that they'll remember. Sometimes they'll send me a text, hey, thank you for attending. And I've been, graduation, birthday parties, weddings, and I'm that kind of guy. I know that there's probably agents that don't really like to mix, the professional side with the personal. I mean, I don't really have a problem myself because again, I see it as a business opportunity. And some people might look at it different.
Right. Yeah, I love it. Now, one of the things I thought was interesting is that because all I'm hearing from you, Jose, is like you're just a loving man, super patient. But you said your wife says some things you're impatient for. Right. So I don't see any of you being impatient for anything.
She's probably gonna, when she hears this, she's gonna be like, hey, you were probably, sometimes, and it obviously is a different thing when you're dealing with, the daily routine of a family, right?
Right.
I am very patient with my clients, and sometimes, and she understands, and obviously, the reason why I'm able to do all this and the reason why I've been so successful is, because of her. She's pretty much there all the time and she's always supporting me and she's my rock. Thanks to her, I'm able to do all of this. She takes care of the kids while I drive to Bakersfield to do a podcast. Not everybody is willing to do that.
Right.
I don't think. And so, it's great. I'm very, very, blessed.
Yeah, I think that support at home is super important.
Right.
Like for me, when I started my tax business, my wife was the one that was actually paying the bills because I didn't have any income.
Right.
And then we had our firstborn actually 9 months after I had started my business. So she told me, you only have 9 months to make your business work. So I put my gas to the pedal, try to get as many clients as possible. And after that, thankfully I was making enough income to at least put food on the table, a roof over my head. Right. But the thing that I'm very, very blessed is that she allowed me to focus 100% of my attention to my business and my clients.
Yes.
If I had to take care of the laundry, the grocery store, and all the other stuff that come with life, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Same here. Same. And in going back a little bit of, having the patience, I think that sometimes it's really hard when you have a really long day and obviously, people get a little irritated, right? You go home and you want to relax. And, I was hearing somebody, saying, hey, when you go home, that's your first job. That's, you still have to take care of the kids and help out in the home. And I think that if you have a really rough, long day, you probably later in the day, that's when you show it, right?
Right.
You're not as patient as, maybe in the morning when you wake up.
Right.
And that's where she refers to, right? Like,
gotcha.
You probably come home and you're not as patient as you were when you left this morning. So,
you know what? I can relate 100% to that because the way I see it is we wake up in the morning with 100%. Like, it's like when you I charge my phone at night and it's 100% charged. And then by the time you're done for the day, you're probably like at 12%. Like you got to charge, and it's like, and then your spouse is saying, "Hey, it's time to charge up again." And you're like, "I wanted to like put my feet up and relax. Like I'm so tired. I had to go through this." But it's like they're looking forward to you come home, because there's like I'd had to deal with your kids for all this, and they're looking for your support. And the last thing you want to do is do that, but we have to remember that they're there for us, and we have to like bounce back. And it's like somehow I'm gonna have to get my batteries up
and do it.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the hardest thing I think of an entrepreneur, because you're right, you're just drained by the end of the day,
right?
And it's unless you just have to find the willpower to do it.
And with our business too, a lot of the people, they work with their hands or maybe their body, and they're exhausted, they're tired. I think that for us it's a little bit different, a different kind of being tired, right? It's more like mental. It's more like all these numbers, all these calls that we make throughout the day, they kind of drain your energy, and it's not so much the physical. I don't think. Well, I mean, for me, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Not so much the physical. You're not tired physically,
right?
You're more, your brain is just. You want to just relax and take a break, and sometimes like I said, when you go home, that's your first job. You gotta be ready.
100%. Yeah, but I think that's good to know, because your brain's just fried at that point, and it's a different kind of tired. It's not like you had to work in the fields, but you just had to deal with like maybe upset clients, or upset maybe not at you, but about the situation that's going on, and you're just trying to fix things, and you take responsibility for it, and so you just want to like get home and relax, and then it's like your job's not over.
Right.
So Jose, tell me a little bit about what is in store for you, like going forward. Like you've been in the business for 16 years, but you're still a young guy. I mean, you're still a young guy. I mean, you have a family, kids to take care of. So, like, what are you looking forward to going forward?
So, in touching a little bit of, I mentioned earlier, there was really no marketing. I wasn't doing too much marketing, or I would just, word of mouth, getting clients. Now, I should have done it. It's always I should have done it, 2 years prior. What I've noticed is during the pandemic, a lot of the people kind of took a little bit of, step up. They came up with new ideas. I mean, I used to watch, realtors with their TikToks, Instagram accounts. Real estate has changed in many ways. There's a lot of information out there for people to look at, right? Sometimes the information that it's provided on the internet, it might not be 100%, accurate, but people are looking online. People are looking at, who's active, who's doing maybe a TikTok. I mean, as simple as it sounds, I mean, there's, the generations, have changed. Mm-hmm. Now what I want to do for, the future, short term is obviously get more, get my name out there, and eventually, get my own office.
Nice.
That's what I want to do. I want to get my name out there. I want to be able to be more involved in social media, because I really think that people want to put a face to the name, mm-hmm. and you need to get yourself out there. I mean, you're not going to be able to do real estate in the future if you're sitting on your desk, I mean, really working on paperwork.
Right.
I mean, that was 16 years ago when I started. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's time to move forward, and do something different. And I think that going through the pandemic, I think that I started to think of, hey, how am I going to do this? Because I see it, right? There's a lot of new agents that are coming up, and they're really taking it, step ahead, and you're going to have to do it, or you're going to get behind. And that's just the way it is. It's just like big companies, in the past, companies that have gone out of business. I mean, either you step it up, or you're going to have to, do something different. And I think, and that's what I'm going. I want to be more, obviously I want to cater more of the newer generations. Mm-hmm. There's still, I think it's going to take some time. But even with the Latino community, I think that they're really getting into the social media. They're really getting more, into technology. So I think that that's going to be a big step for, if you don't keep up with the technology, I think that it's going to be it's going to get harder for many agents.
100%. And I think what you said is that you have to pivot, right, to the new times, to whatever's happening, whatever's trending. I mean, like you said, companies that have gone out of business is because they did not pivot.
Right.
And I can think of so many different companies like Blockbuster, for example.
Yes.
I loved Blockbuster as a kid, but now it doesn't exist.
Right.
It's all Netflix, it's all, everything's stream. And if they would have pivoted to the new technology, they would have been around. So it's the same thing as a realtor or a CPA.
Right.
You have to pivot to whatever is trending. And I mean, that's awesome that you're taking advantage of the new technology like TikTok and social media and putting yourself out there. But I could just imagine with the relationships that you've built, it's just going to even double or triple your business.
Yes, because what I've seen now too is I've seen the younger generation, they're maybe, the parents aren't really into technology. And what I'm getting to is a lot of calls from people. Hey, my dad, or I saw your video, or I saw your listing, my dad is interested, we want to see it, or, when can we do this or that? And that's like I said at the beginning, right? That's what you want to do. I mean, you want to keep the clients, engaged, and with the newer generations, you're not going to be, yes, there's still a market for, if you want to do it the old ways, where you send maybe your business card in the mail. Yeah. I mean, there's still, I think you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. There's still systems that work. For the newer, generations, I think that you need to, do a little bit of everything, if you will, so to stay, in business.
Yeah, I think that's important. And because like you said, your client might not be on that platform, but the client's sons or their generation, whatever, that relationship is. And then you got the referral from the nephew or the, the son. So that's awesome. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, Jose, like if you're, if anyone wants to buy a house or they want to maybe partner up with you, and, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
I mean, they can always, call me. I mean, I'm going to give you my number, if you will. My number is 831-840-5677. And that, we usually cover Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, Monterey, and San Benito counties. Those are the main counties. We're licensed, throughout, the state, so we can help you, in Bakersfield.
Right.
I have a couple of clients that are actually going to invest in Bakersfield pretty soon that are repeated clients.
Nice.
So that's always nice. And social media, they can always find me under Marquez Homes, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and also Facebook.
That's awesome. And I think if you just even want to just follow Jose just because of his expertise. I mean, who else can you hire with more than 16 years of experience that's built so many relationships? What you see on TikTok is just going to be a little taste of what you're going to get. So You'll be lucky. He gave away his phone number, so consider yourself lucky for all my listeners. All right. Well, Jose, thanks again for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. Any final words before we end the show?
I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity, and going back to, social media and how people are getting out there now. It's a different ball game. I mean, I got to tell you, one of the reasons why I got engaged was because of your social media.
Wow.
Really, that's what grabbed my attention. And I really wanted to come in, one, because I know I've known you for, many years. I know your mom. And another thing is I wanted to snoop around. I want to know what you're doing, because I can see that you are very successful. I mean, I think that you have stepped it up, and that's what's going to bring, at the end of the day, more clients, more business.
100%. I think what's more important is that experience outweighs anything. So it's an honor having you on the show, Jose, and I thank you. It's been an honor having you, and I look forward to working together in the future as well.
Thank you very much for having me. Yes.